The time it actually happened, like I had mentioned, is like I was getting so frustrated because I was getting so close. Everything you said, body heavy, hearing ringing, all this kind of stuff. And then I'd snap out of it. I'd do something to twitch or something.
Mm.
And one night I was in my head, similar to what you said, you know what? I'm done with this. I think I'm over. I'm just losing sleep. It's not working. And maybe I just need to take a break for a long time. And
Mm.
I just went to bed. I rolled over my side because I naturally sleep that way. And then I went to sleep. And then at some point, all of a sudden, I could see like my hands, even though I felt physically my eyes were closed, I could see it. And then I felt as if I didn't see it happen, but it felt as if someone put my hand on top of my other hand.
Mm.
And then kind of like you mentioned a long time ago about the way you communicate, it was like telekinesis, not telekinesis, but telepathic.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like you kind of decipher what's being said, and it basically was saying, "Now, go time, right now." No,
Um, yep.
I don't know, I
Yep.
was all excited for this, and then all of a sudden, last minute, I was like, "Man, I don't know." I'm kind of like you when sometimes you hesitate to want to share because you're
Mm.
kind of like a private guy too. But I
Mm.
was like, man, like just to show that your methods work, so you can tell everyone else, like keep with it, because sometimes you think in the back of your head, is this legit? And then because
Mm.
that actually really happened, and it happened even with my buddy. I told him about it and told him just a brief summary of your ways, and even he got it.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
not even a member, so it's like it just goes to show. And I just want to help everything you do for us. I want to at least support you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. It works. It's just like the more people that do it, I mean, I already knew this was gonna happen in the like when I first came out there, like I knew that people were gonna, doubt and be like, oh, this is not, but I just knew it took just a matter of time before people actually just implemented it. And it's just
Mhm.
like it starts a what do you say? It starts a flame that can't be stopped at that point. Like
Yeah, man.
it really can't. Like think about it. If I stop, totally stop, you and everybody else that have shared their success, and many people that haven't in the background. I mean, you know
Yeah,
exactly what to do. It doesn't stop from here. So
yeah, man. That's where we appreciate you, man. And it's like
yeah.
you mentioned in one interview once about like the tuning and frequencies, and I forgot what was the subject, but is you were saying something about people will like hear you when they're ready to hear you, and they'll
Yeah.
hear certain frequencies when they're ready to. And I remember I started off with certain people, and it just randomly led me to you, and then it was like I heard you, man. It was like connected, Whereas I don't hear other people, but for you, I was like, I tune in on this one, and then I just started trying for it, and it happened, right? So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no. Well, I want to hear it, but I'll just start it off like yeah. But so welcome, Tony. Tony's been working with the method for 3 months now, and it took him 4 weeks to achieve it. So welcome, Tony. Yeah,
Hey, thank you, good
yeah,
to be here for
yeah.
having me. So I had a previous. I was trying for so long, and I got so close so many times. So I'll just talk about the actual time it happened, and then maybe you can backpedal it.
Okay.
But the time it actually happened, like I had mentioned, is like I was getting so frustrated because I was getting so close. Everything you said, body heavy, hearing ringing, all this kind of stuff. And then I'd snap out of it. I'd do something to twitch or something.
Mm.
And one night I was in my head, similar to what you said, when you said, "Show me or else I'll end it myself," right? You
Mm.
said, um, and I didn't say that, but I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I think I'm over. I'm just losing sleep. It's not working. And maybe I just need to take a break for a long time. And
Mm.
I just went to bed. I rolled over my side because I naturally sleep that way. And then I went to sleep. And then at some point, all of a sudden, I could see like my hands, even though I felt physically my eyes were closed, I could see it. And then I felt as if I didn't see it happen, but it felt as if someone put my hand on top of my other hand.
Mm.
And then kind of like you mentioned a long time ago about the way you communicate, it was like telekinesis, not telekinesis, but telepathic.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like you kind of decipher what's being said, and it basically was saying, "Now, go time, right now." And I pushed, and my whole body locked up like a cramp, my whole
Mm.
body.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh man, that was cramped, that was tight." And then I started pushing against my hands, and it was kind of like what you mentioned, doing a push up.
Mm.
And I was pressing, and I was like, felt like I was peeling. It was so heavy, and then finally just like snapped off, and it
Yeah.
felt like something flopped off. But peripherally, I didn't see anything flop off. I saw a dark figure in the bed, and you said never look back or don't look at the body or else you'll snap back.
Mm.
So my instincts kicked in, and I remembered everything you said about just get out, get away from the body. So when that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I think that was it. So I like was rushing to get away from the body, get out of the room.
Yeah.
So I stumbled across this room here, and I felt drunk, to be honest. It felt like how I do right now, but it was just really like stumbling. I was just looking at the ground, and all I can think of is get out of the room, get to this door right here.
Yeah.
And in my hallway, I have this huge body mirror, and in my head, I was like, just get out there, and I want to see what I look like, right? So, but to get to that, I locked this door at night, right, for my son and my wife, and
Mm.
I just remember looking at the ground, and I was stumbling, and I went through the door. I didn't even open the door. I just was already in my hallway,
Yes.
and as I was looking up, I saw my feet approaching the mirror, and then I started seeing my hips, my stomach, and then I was getting to my face because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to see my face!" And then I snapped back in to my
Okay.
body.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but the curious thing was, I had like a blue hue, like a it was weird. My clothes were blue. Everything was kind of like a hue tint of blue,
Mm.
and I wasn't glowing or anything, but it looked like you photoshopped me out of the scene, and I was blue, and then I was in what exactly it looks like. And I have like a little nightlight in the hallway for my
Mm.
son, and it wasn't reflecting on me, even though I was there. Some reflections blue, and the light wasn't hitting me, so I knew I don't think I'm really here, but I'm here.
Mm.
And then I just want to see my face, but I didn't get a chance to. And then I snapped back in, and I felt this, not a voice, but I felt like this feeling of like, oh man, wasn't that pretty cool? And I was like,
Yeah.
what? And then I went back to sleep, and in the morning I thought back on it. I was like, what? Did that
Yeah.
really happen?
Yeah. You have a being assisting you. Like that's happened to me. Like that figure you said you saw. That's pretty much
Yeah,
what it is, man. Yeah. It's like then once you come out, once you looked up at the mirror, it was getting to the face. Like I guarantee you're probably like more excited, more excited, more excited. But
yeah,
then
yeah.
how far again? How far were you away from your body once you're doing that?
I would
Like
probably say that's about 13, 14 feet.
yeah, yeah. Oh, what it is.
We're pretty close. And I was just looking up, and I thought I was being calm because I remember what you said, be
Yeah.
calm. I was just like, oh, shoot, about to I get to see it. But
Yeah.
again, I was a little hue of blue, and then I snapped back in. And the curious thing is the time before when I tried, gotten really close.
Mm.
Uh, all the symptoms, heavy body, ringing, and then I started to feel like shifting, like you mentioned, like,
Yeah.
but it felt like I was on, those old the pirate ship rocking ride where you
Yes.
drop
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt like I felt like, well, I'm getting dizzy. And then
Mm.
I saw a white flash underneath over my eyelids, and then I saw all of a sudden it was like dark blue started pouring into my view
Mm.
under my eyelids. But and I had a lot of interesting experiences like you had as a kid that I kind of shut down because it freaks me out. And
Yep.
but there's a recurring theme of blue. There's a lot of like blue tints in my body, the colors being blue. I've been visited a long time ago when I was a kid, and they had a blue hue as well.
Beans that had a blue hue. Ye-
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just like a shade. They weren't like
Mm.
obviously blue. When you look at them in the dark, you can tell that there's like a almost like there's a blue filter over them.
Yeah. Yeah. You're seeing the essence of the soul. So yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Or the frequency because color frequency it's all hold certain.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you're right though. It felt as physical as this right now. I didn't feel any different, to be honest. And if my
Yeah.
wife had told me in the morning, like, what were you doing? You were stumbling across the bedroom and then you went through the door.
Yeah.
I've been like, oh, that makes sense because it felt real
Yeah.
like
Felt that
that.
real. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
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 And the thought process stays the same. You're still the same person. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
coming out and think because I did MMA as well and you did boxing and
Yeah.
I'd be instinctual. So I remember you telling saying, get out of the room. So I just rushed out of the room and
Yeah.
didn't think anything. And then as soon as I saw my feet walking towards the mirror coming up, I was, oh my gosh, it did it. And then snap back.
So
It hasn't happened.
well, congratulations on that small success, like getting out. I mean, that's not a small success. That's massive because you're out.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you. That
But
was awesome. And then my buddy, I talked to him and he's kind of becoming open with this. And I told him about it even. And I just told him a brief summary of what what you teach. And he got out without even like knowing too many details.
mm,
So it just goes to show, and he said he sat up out of his body, walked across and tried to leave the door. And when he reached for the doorknob, he snapped back in.
yeah. So that this seems to be a very common theme with some people with the testimonials. Like they'll come out and then they'll actually they're out and they're gone already accessing places. But
Yeah.
the whole the reason why you're getting pulled back in, the reason why I say just leave as quickly as you can, because
Mm-hmm.
when you initially come out, the pull the body shut down, but it could quickly snap back, and you're going to get pulled back. That magnetic field's going to pull you back. So I
Yeah.
found every single time that I've ever come out of my body, not it's I feel it. It's always there in the background. And the more that I create the distance out, so like I'll just go way away from my body. Sometimes I'll peek and look back at it to confirm that I'm out, and then I'll just head out. Then when I
Mm-hmm.
come back to it, if I want to later, it's almost like that. You could say that full disconnect has been for such an extended period of time. You could go back to your body. I remember even, feeling it, touching it. It's
Oh,
very bizarre what you're
wow.
doing because
That's
the
great.
fear will kick back, for people like, oh man, I'm actually dead, but you're not. But yeah, yeah,
But I really appreciate you pushing getting rid of fear, right? Because that's very important.
mm,
And I had sleep paralysis as a kid, like you mentioned, and I never saw beings out. And I actually, the only time I was ever afraid was the first time it happened because I just didn't know what was going on. I woke up and there's just a bunch of people in my room. It looked like just a bunch of people going about their day in the dark,
mm,
and they were wearing old-fashioned clothing, like pilgrim clothing. And I just remember waking up and go, "What the heck is this?" I think I was like 11, and for a while there, I was freaking out trying to call for my parents, and you can't make a sound, right? So I
yes,
can't
yeah,
move. And then after a while, I just realized they don't know that I'm here. They don't notice that I'm here. They're just doing their thing. And then
mm,
I went back to sleep. And then from there, I've always seen like people, but it got to a point where I would wake up and go, "Oh, it's just this again," and just go back to sleep.
yeah,
I got rid of fear quick. I've never seen any beings or entities or anything like that. There's always people
yeah,
until the last two times it happened. That's when I shut it off because it kind of got too freaky for me in terms of I just don't understand what's going on. But I had visitations, and the weird thing about that is it was all telepathic.
mm,
Like I remember just seeing a kid in my room once, and it would be like a scene in a scary movie in the pitch dark, just a kid just standing next to my bed, looking at me in the face. You would think you'd be freaked out, but I remember seeing them and being recognize them as someone I knew, even though I don't
no, no,
consciously recall them. But
yeah,
when I saw them instantly, I thought, "Oh, it's so good to see you again. I missed you," and it was just all love
mm,
and recognition, and I didn't want them to leave, and but it was all through the
telepathic,
telepathic.
yeah, yeah,
And it's not like words that we're speaking right now. I don't know if you felt this the same way, but it's not like using words. It's this feeling, and then you just decipher that feeling, and it forms what they're trying to communicate.
yep, exactly,
I don't know.
yep, yep, yeah, no,
And then,
you just explained it perfectly, actually. So yeah,
oh,
yeah,
sweet.
yeah,
And recently, after that sleep paralysis, I've been digging into this, exploring more what you're saying. And then sometimes you have that skepticism of like, am I on the right path? What am I, is this, and in my heart, I feel like it's true, but what's the truth? And then finally I accepted it. I'm going to embrace this because this just feels right. And
mm,
then that night I had very similar to that kid, but it was a woman. and she was kneeling right next to my bed where my head is. Again, in the dark, pitch dark. And I couldn't really make out her face. It was really dark. I couldn't really make it out, but I could feel the energy there was a smile. I didn't see it, but there was this really joyful, happy, almost like it's so good to see you again. And again, as if I know her from outside of this realm, and that it was just cheering me on. It was the feeling that I could decipher was, you've got it, keep going. You're on to it. Don't stop. Because like playing a basketball game and you're on a roll. She's like, keep going. And I just remember saying in my mind, don't leave. I don't want you to leave. It's so good to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. And then I woke up in the morning and thought, that was weird, but it felt so loving. You know, it was a love that I can't really explain. You know?
Yeah.
And comfort and knowing. And I've had a lot of experiences like that. And then seeing, have you ever seen by chance, because I've never heard you talk about this yet, but objects, like inanimate objects, just move by themselves?
Once you're out of your body, like things just
No, in like right now, like in your conscious state. Like I've had many situations with friends and girlfriends, and we'd be talking, and then like an item on the floor will slide across the floor by itself,
oh yeah,
or
yeah, like things would fall and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah,
falling, or a shower curtain will pull open all the way across.
yeah.
And in my mind at the time, I thought it was just like a glitch in the matrix, or
No, so it's basically okay. So what that typically is so each soul has an electromagnetic field. So once you're out of the body, you'll find the more that you do it. Let's say if your door is locked, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's all dependent. Like it's happened to me, where then I come out, the door is locked, and I physically am unlocking the door to pop out, and then I'll come into the body, and then realize the door's unlocked, or slight changes of what I've done. Sometimes it's not at all. It's like the door's still locked even now. But so the once you leave, it's all like you need to think about bandwidth. So let's just say if the physical realm is like this bandwidth, and then once you're out, you're operating like, at this bandwidth. So it's basically, if you could shift the electromagnetic field to basically, you could say, interact with here, you have more influence here. So this is the same thing with the beings already on the other side in their soul completely. Like you have, once you're coming out of your body, you already said you have beings contacting or there saying you're almost there, etc. So these beings are not, they don't just disappear just because you're awake talking to me right now.
yeah,
You get like
yeah,
this information download, stuff like that that's coming in. All of a sudden you intuitive knowings, or like that's because they also carry an electromagnetic field as well. So what happens, it's the same thing, you see what I mean? But it's
yeah,
not,
yeah.
yeah, it's not necessarily evil spirit, but it's
No, I
yeah,
always saw it at the time as like man, there's a kinetic energy or some weird
yeah,
friction.
yeah,
That's weird. But yeah, and then seeing that image on your website of the construct, with the globe and all the puddles,
yes,
and it was so, when you posted that, I was like, wow, that kind of made me remember of this really vivid dream. It almost feels like a memory rather than a dream, because it's so vivid. Of but it looked like similar to that, the sky and but anyway, and the color.
it
And
triggers you,
there's
doesn't it? It's like a remembrance. You remember it, but
yeah.
you don't.
I remember in that situation, it was
Yeah.
I was with similar, as a feminine energy, and we were on top of like this mountain. It was very similar to that, and you see the clouds and different pools. And I remember being so happy and at peace. It was the most peaceful I've ever been. And but I remember something was coming to take me away. Like I had to leave. I can't stay here. And I remember the feminine energy, the female, was to grab me and held me and embrace me like the most, again, peaceful, loving, unconditional, like you mentioned, hug, and kept repeating to me in my ear, don't forget this, don't forget this, don't forget this. And to this day, that was like 6 years ago, and I could still feel the air, or the everything, the texture of the jacket. It was so vivid. And all I can remember waking up was just don't forget this. And it always kind of gave me a reminder of like, is this place real, or was that place real? And
Yeah. Yeah, Tony, you're gonna be an interesting person to work with inside of the work groups. Like, yeah, because you're gonna have a lot more. Like, I, yeah,
thank you.
yeah, you're
And
gonna be
then
pretty cool. Yeah.
thank you, bro. Thank you. And then Uh, ever since I've been diving into your stuff too, I was with my son at the park, and I don't know if you've ever had encountered something like this, but we're just playing, and then all of a sudden I looked at my hands, and it triggered something in my mind, and it's just all of a sudden it felt like when you're looking at your driver's console, it was a
Mm-hmm.
separation. Like my hands, I'm driving this vehicle. This isn't me. It's like a reminder of, oh, of everything you've said and everything I've always heard. It was just like, oh, I'm experiencing this. I'm just here for the experience. I'm like, this is my vehicle and I'm experiencing all this. And I don't know how to explain it, but
No, yeah, you're getting the temporary remembrance of like, you know, like people will go through daily life and this is all that is to them. They think, and they're caught in the cycle of just life, you know, and then they forget. And then all of a sudden, whether if that's through, you know, just it's typically they start questioning things. If there's a death in the family that they love, then they go, wait a second, let me, and then they allow, this isn't it. And then sometimes you get like a temporary, like, wait a second, what am I doing? Because like it's all there, man. Yeah. But
it's
yeah,
awesome, man.
yeah,
It's funny, right after that last workshop you just did with the history of the construct, which again, thank you so much for doing those. They're so awesome. Where I
yeah.
was, um, yeah, you had mentioned, I think someone had asked a question about like, um, what happens to bad people, right? Evil
Yes.
people. And then I remember it was kind of briefly touched upon it. And you said it might not feel right when I say this, but you know, just like the son, right? The good son and the bad son, you love
Mm,
them unconditionally both.
yeah.
And I'm being like, oh man, that's crazy because you think, man, so the bad people who are doing horrible things will just get away scot free, right? At the end. But then the last testimony you just did,
Mm,
she touched and you clarified
yeah.
that they themselves will have to deal with that, what they did.
Yeah. Every soul does. That's a thing. Like you can never escape yourself ever. That's including even when you leave. I mean, you know now that you who you are once you leave the body, death is not real. You stay. You have the same you. That's you now. So you are the person that can never escape yourself. So
Yeah.
the people, what you do here absolutely does matter because you will live in the things that you do here. People think somehow that pain doesn't exist on the other side, regret, sadness. I'll tell you right now, the Bob thing with withholding certain things here, doing certain things, is the most pain I've ever felt in my entire life. So,
Yeah. I
because
remember you saying
yeah,
that it brought you to your knees, right?
yeah, yeah, in pain, and it's the reason why I even started all of this. To be honest, that you could say that was the what do you say?
Catalyst.
Yeah, the catalyst of everything. Because
Yeah.
I realized I'm like, wait a second, like that's so yeah, yeah.
No, that's what
Everybody faces themselves.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what after you mentioned that to her, it clicked in with me. I was like, oh, like we all, I don't know what happened in my mind. I can't even translate it right now. But I
Mm,
remember I heard that in the morning, like at 5 a.m. Then I go to the gym. I went to the gym. I was doing like mid exercise, and then all of a sudden just hit me. And
mm,
it was so emotional. And I was like, I get what he's saying. Like, and then I saw everyone in the gym, and I can't even explain this. I'll sound really weird, but I just had nothing but love for everyone in the gym. I didn't even know some of them, but it was just like, man, I just love everyone. And like, even no matter what you do, you again, I don't know how to explain it. Because I think sometimes some of us want people to pay for their crimes, right? Or karma. They were like, oh, well, or get revenge of some kind. And I think you mentioning that made me have to address my own stuff of like people who, done wrong to me or people I've known. And kind of in the back of your head, you can say, oh, I'm trying to be peaceful. But in the back of your head, you're like, I hope they get judged or I hope they pay for what they did, some atrocious things to do. And then realizing what you just mentioned, that it's not my place. They're going to have to deal with it themselves.
yeah,
And
everybody always does. Yeah, that's
yeah,
the. I mean, you could ignore those things here and it's easy to. But once you're there, like you're not, everything is brought forward. And that's why I said the unforgivable sin is the one that you can't forgive yourself for,
Yeah. So
because you are the judge of yourself. I mean, it's I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, or they're not there. But like when you really, like, this could be a whole other workshop to talk about it. But I'm very careful of how I say it,
yeah.
because it can be very, very quickly misinterpreted.
Mhm.
And but
Taking a different. Yeah. No, I hear you.
absolutely, yeah.
And I respect that. You do that. You're conscious of that and trying to pick your words carefully, because even preparing for this, and I'm probably been really like rambling every which way, but there's
Well,
certain things you talk
yeah,
about
you're
because you
good.
don't want
You're
to, like,
perfectly good. Yeah, yeah,
thank you. But
yeah.
uh, yeah, no, I respect that, because some people aren't ready to hear certain things, and it can, like you mentioned, if you start introducing all those fear-based stuff or things that kind of would make people more fearful, you can totally shove them in a different direction, and you're trying to awaken. And as much as sometimes I'm like, oh man, what did he say about thing 15, like the tunnels, and I want to hear about that, but then
Yes.
uh but I understand why you avoid that.
Yeah, because there's a all right. People right now are already in such a state of fear that
Yeah.
that's what they use to keep people constantly in a state of not moving forward. So the most important thing is getting people out of that, because once you get them out of that and realize who they actually are, death is not real. You have control over certain things. You could do certain things right now. And then they step into a place of complete remembrance of who they are, and empowerment over time. And then you could open up the curtains, and what they see isn't necessarily something to be fearful of, because they know who they are, and not in a place of not knowing, and therefore stepping into fear because they fear of not knowing or not understanding. You see?
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's a
definitely
touchy subject. Yeah,
absolutely, man. Yeah. That's
man, you're
why
right though.
that's why the stuff is, I share within workshops. I go deeper, and so yeah.
No, and I appreciate that. You're very considerate in that way, because it can easily start to mind screw people, and
Mm,
and it's already a really tangled mess with all the distortions and lies we already taught.
yes.
It'd be a big shift. And I don't know how you did it, man, seeing all this stuff and then have go about normal life. I don't know if you've had a transition of when you realize what's real, and then now you have to kind of go through of like, okay, you just gotta pay taxes, go to work, do this, play your part here. I don't know how you could do that with all your experiences.
Well, you're living in okay. Once you realize certain things, I'm not saying that you don't realize it, but like, broad. Well, once you realize certain things, you realize that the how important it is to stay in truth and love, which is courage, standing for truth, speaking that. And so it's not necessarily, it's not hard. It is, you could say it is. It's like but it's not, because you bring that here, like to the best of people's abilities. They start acting in accordance here of that which you would do on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's it's hard for people that get stuck in believing that this is all that there is, and therefore their consciousness becomes split of the truth in lies and deception of what, like, this physical body is not you, this stuff. That's the hard thing. That's what they struggle with. They jump from this to that to this, back and forth, not realizing that this could be put here. You could walk in this realm, this reality, in complete love and integrity for yourself and others to the best of your ability. And that is a hard thing for people to do. You could say responsibility at that point, because then because then what you do here and the things that you are doing does matter, not necessarily for you to be judged, but
Mhm.
these are things you will look back on once you fully leave. This is why there's a transitional space. This is why there's what they call the white room, for that very thing, for people to battle out, or not battle out, to resolve the things that they did not want to look at while they were
Mhm.
here. And all that could be confronted here. Once it's confronted here, that automatically sends a ripple right back to the very source. You see,
Mhm.
if you confront it in the, you could say, the densest part of reality, it's it's it causes such an effect on the other side to you as a being, as a soul, that is so, no, I can't really explain it.
Yeah. It's a
it
lot of this stuff is hard to put into words. So
mm,
I commend you for being able to do as much as you do. It's I don't know, but in time, in time, a lot more will be understood. And I just want to, if there's anyone else out there that's struggling to get this done and getting frustrated, it's just be patient, right? Patient, take your time, and it'll happen. Stick with it because it's for sure. It's guaranteed. It's gonna happen. It's just whenever you're ready for it. You said your friend, it took a year, right?
yeah, one of them, it took a year, and that was a close friend of mine. Just I was I remember, I'm like, okay, dude, if you come out, you see this, don't freak out. Like, if there's a being standing next to you, don't freak out. And he starts to come out, he sees a being, he's like, Darius, I'm not ready for this, I'm not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Is he the
Because
one you
it
tried to pull out?
no, that was that was someone else. I'll keep that private, like,
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. Like, some people aren't, like I said, it's a fear thing. They still have that in the background, thinking that
Yeah.
once they leave, then. But yeah, I
No,
explain it. I think I explain it properly in interviews and stuff. But yeah,
sure, for sure. And like I said, it just a testament how strong of this method is that again, my buddy who I just briefly told was able to do it. And I would say 3 weeks of just a brief summary of your methods. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
it's pretty
Well,
cool.
tell them congratulations too. Yeah, tell them to keep on doing it as well. Yeah,
Yeah. We always talk about it. Did you do it? Did you do it every day we see each other?
yeah,
And we're out having a little competition who can get there first.
yeah.
But it was an awesome experience. Like I said, it was a very cool experience. So thank you again for helping us all
Yeah,
realize the truth. So,
yeah. Thank you for sharing. I'll be in touch too. Like I said, you're going to be interesting to work with in, like, the work groups and stuff. So yeah,
sure. Thank you, man.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great, man. Catch you later.
Thank you again. See ya.
Yeah.